Good morning and welcome to the Deep Dive. This week, we're really zeroing in on the TCG world, looking back at last weekend, April 21st, 2025.
Yeah, good morning. Lots to cover.
Definitely. Pokemon, Lorcana, Magic, One Piece, seems like there's always something happening, right? We've got a bunch of sources here, and the plan is to kind of pull out the key stuff, make sense of it all without getting too bogged down.
Exactly. It's easy to get lost in the weeds, but we want to find those main trends and insights to give you the clearest picture possible.
Okay, let's dive right in then. Pokemon seems like the big one this week. Destined Rivals, the upcoming set.
No.
Feels like the initial excitement might be cooling off a little.
That's certainly the vibe, yeah. Pre-order prices, we're seeing them dip. They were hovering around maybe $400. Now they're slipping below $300 in quite a few places. And the why is interesting. It's just maybe collectors are getting a bit more savvy, perhaps, less jumping on that initial hype train.
Yeah, and the sources mention pull rates maybe being just, okay,
Yeah.
kind of like journey together. So maybe people aren't expecting like an insane chase for the big cards.
Precisely. And it's also a smaller set, apparently. So if it's easier to pull the cards you want or, complete more of the set.
Then there isn't that one massive chase card driving up the whole box price.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Exactly. Which leads to this feeling that maybe paying $300 for a booster box right now isn't necessarily the best investment move. The scarcity just doesn't feel like it's there yet.
Plus, there's the whole print run thing.
Yeah.
If people think this is going to be printed for a while.
Right. Then why pay a premium now? The urgency just isn't there. It kind of dampens those early high prices.
But it's not all negative, is it?
Yeah.
The artwork seems to be getting some good early feedback. I think Houndoom was mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. So while the sealed box investment might be looking a bit shaky right now, the cards themselves, the aesthetics, could still be really appealing to collectors.
That's a good distinction. Collectability versus immediate profit aren't always the same thing.
For sure. And one other little detail, some sources mention smaller allocations for local game stores that could create some localized price bumps, if supply is tight in certain areas.
Okay. And what about Journey Together? That came out not too long ago. How's that doing?
Also seems to be trending down a bit. Both sealed stuff and the single card prices have been softening since release. It kind of fits that pattern of initial hype fading.
Right. Now, Surging Sparks. Wow. One expert had some very direct advice. Pump and dump your face and leave it alone. That's blunt.
Yeah, pretty strong words. It suggests basically zero confidence in its long-term value at the current price, which was around $250 a box, I think.
Yeah.
The recommendation was actually to look backwards, maybe at older Scarlet and Violet sets, like the first four, or even some of the, less hyped Sword and Shield boxes.
Interesting. Betting on stuff that might have been overlooked before.
Exactly. The idea is those might have better potential for appreciation down the line as supply really dries up compared to something maybe overhyped right now.
Okay, but then you have the glory of Team Rocket. That seems to be a different story entirely. Much more positive buzz.
Oh yeah, definitely. Reviews sound good, and some of those single card values are really impressive. That Team Rocket's Mewtwo X is getting close to $400.
Wow. That shows nostalgia plus a strong chase card still works, right?
Absolutely. And it's not just Mewtwo either. There were mentions of Crobat X, Meowth IR, Jamming Tower, Giovanni, Moltres, Proton, Blaziken IR. Lots of cards seem to be holding decent value.
So the set has depth. It's not just one card carrying it.
Exactly right. Broader appeal, which is healthier for the set's overall value long term.
Now 151. Still going strong. Seems like it never really faded.
Still incredibly popular. Prices are actually climbing, especially hearing reports from the UK. Reprints seem limited, and that original 151 Pokemon appeal is just timeless.
And you've got cards like that Alakazam EX Special Illustration Rare around $100, keeping interest high.
Yeah, that combination of nostalgia, great art, and desirable pulls is hard to beat. The rising prices suggest supply is finally getting tight compared to that steady demand.
Okay, now Crown Zenith. This one's fascinating. Singles price is falling, but sealed ETBs and booster bundles are rising significantly. How does that work?
Yeah, it seems contradictory at first glance, right? But it's all about the packs inside. Basically, the value of the individual Crown Zenith packs within those sealed items has gone up so much.
That it's now higher than what you'd pay for loose packs if you could even find them easily.
Exactly. Loose packs are becoming scarce, so the demand shifts to the sealed products because that's the only reliable way to get those packs. The sum of the parts becomes more valuable.
And the growth is huge. ETB's up like 211% over the last year. booster bundles up 135%. That's massive.
It really is, and it highlights the draw of those Galarian Gallery cards inside. Even if the absolute top-tier chase cards like Giratina V-Star, Arceus V-Star, Mewtwo V-Star have dipped a bit recently.
The overall package, the sealed box or bundle, is still highly desirable because of what's inside and the difficulty of getting it otherwise.
Precisely. It's a great example of market dynamics around scarcity.
So, zooming out a bit, the broader trend for Scarlet and Violet seems to be a bit of a dip from March to April. Like, the top 20 cards lost over 12% aggregate value.
Yeah, that points towards a market correction. We saw really high prices early in the Scarlet and Violet era. It's pretty normal for things to settle down after that initial rush.
Kind of like what happened with Sword and Shield eventually. Right?
Exactly. Initial hype fades, supply catches up maybe, speculative buying cools off, and prices find a more stable level based on, actual collectability and maybe playability.
Yeah, we should probably factor in the time of year too, right? Could there be a bit of a summer slowdown for Pokemon interest?
Absolutely. Seasonal dips are definitely a thing in TCGs. Something to keep in mind. Oh, and also bulk commons and uncommons. Still pretty low value, which is typical. Focus is always on the rares.
Makes sense. Let's quickly touch on these terms. Scalpers, flippers, resellers, investors. They're not all the same, are they?
No, not really, though the lines can blur sometimes. A scalper is mostly about that immediate flip on super high demand, limited stuff. Just grab it and sell it quick for profit, exploiting that hype.
Okay. And flippers, resellers.
Flippers might have a bit more market knowledge, looking for deals, maybe slightly longer hold than a scalper, but still relatively quick turnaround. Resellers often have more like a business, holding inventory, maybe specializing.
And investors are playing the long game.
Right. Buying with the expectation of significant value increase over years, not days or weeks. Like holding sealed Sword and Shield, maybe, instead of flipping Destined Rivals pre-orders. Different time horizons, different strategies.
Gotcha. Okay, GameStop's doing these mystery boxes now. Graded card, PSA 8 or higher, plus 3 packs.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, trying to tap into that graded market, maybe. The example was pulling a PSA 9 base set Magikarp worth maybe $32, plus 3 packs like Silver Tempest, which are maybe $5 each.
So the value really depends heavily on what graded card you actually pull. A bit of a lottery.
Totally. It's a gamble. Could be a fun way for someone to get their first graded slab, maybe, but you're definitely rolling the dice on value.
And speaking of grading, sounds like PSA is still pretty backed up.
Yeah, high submission volumes mean longer wait times, apparently, which opens the door for competitors.
Like Premier Card Grading, PCG.
Exactly. They're positioning themselves as maybe a fair-priced alternative, trying to challenge the big guys like PSA and Beckett. Their grading volume is reportedly increasing month over month, so they seem to be gaining some traction.
Okay, that's a pretty thorough look at the Pokemon scene right now. Moving on, Lorcana. Anything major happening there based on the sources?
Interestingly, no. The sources we looked at for this week didn't really have any specific Lorcana news or product updates. Seems the focus was elsewhere for this period.
All right. Let's switch gears then. Magic. The Gathering. Sounds like there's some noise in Standard with Tarkir Dragonstorm.
Oh yeah, definitely some buzz there. A new archetype popping up. The Is It Prowess version sounds particularly hot, using apparently the best card out of the new set.
And a bunch of other powerful stuff like Abrade, Corey Steelcutter, Temporary Lockdown, Stock Up, Lightning Helix, Chandra, Magma Opus. It sounds like a potent mix.
For sure. Seems like it's making waves in the Standard meta. And it's not the only thing. Sounds like other Jeskai strategies are around too, like one using Jeskai Oculus.
It means counterplay becomes important, right? Like Graveyard Hate. Ashiok was mentioned.
Exactly. Shows the format might be shifting, people needing answers to these new graveyard or spell-based strategies. Healthy evolution, potentially.
What about older formats? Vintage sounds like it's in a bit of a slump.
Yeah, the term lost decade came up. Market seems pretty flat, maybe even down a bit since the peak around 2021. Some even point fingers at Magic 30 as maybe contributing to that cooling off.
But on a more positive note for older stuff, reprints like Baldur's Gate and Adventures in the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, one expert saw a potential opportunity there. Reprinting those sets could maybe bring some fresh interest, make them more accessible again, a different angle than just focusing on the brand new releases.
Okay. And finally, let's hit One Piece quickly. OP09 set. Sounds like it's doing well.
Really well, actually. Big price jump over the last 3 months. Went from around $120 up to maybe $180. That's strong momentum.
Wow. And speaking of strong, that poll mentioned from OP05 assigned Odo Luffy card, graded PSA 10.
Yeah, that's like the dream pull, isn't it? An
Yeah,
absolutely incredible find. Really shows the high ceiling potential in the One Piece TCG.
definitely. So wrapping all this up, any general TCG investment takeaways from everything we've discussed?
I think a key theme is maybe be cautious about that super hyped new release. The advice seems to lean towards considering older, potentially undervalued sets for maybe safer long-term growth.
But it's not like the whole market is crashing, right?
No, not at all. Another view is that the market's still strong, just maybe less overly bullish than it was. Things are normalizing a bit. And for Pokemon specifically, that buy and hold strategy still seems like a solid approach for the long term.
And the classic advice, don't let FOMO drive your buying. Avoid those emotional purchases.
Absolutely. Stick to your plan, do your research. Easier said than done sometimes, but crucial.
Well, this has been a really insightful deep dive covering the TCG waterfront as of last weekend, April 21st. We saw those Pokemon price shifts, the rise of Tarkir Dragonstorm and Magic, One Piece continuing its climb. Lots of moving parts.
Definitely. The TCG world never stands still for long, does it? Always something new to analyze.
So here's something to think about. Given all these fluctuations in opinions, what TCG products released in, say, the past year do you think might have the most surprising value shifts up or down over the next 5 years? What factors do you think will be key? Definitely something to mull over.
Good question. Keep watching those trends.
Thank you for staying with us. And don't forget to check out 151collectables.com for all your TCG needs.